What's up, everyone? Welcome to the channel. Thanks for hanging out with us. Jamie Golliver and myself are going to chat today. We brought some different things and ideas and get your gears turning a little bit on buying a house, getting pre-qualified, what questions, not to be embarrassed, trying to guide you in that prelim stuff. But now, today we're going to talk about, all right, I'm officially ready to buy a house. Now, what do I do? What does that process look like? And how do we go about it? So let's bring him in. My man, Jay Bird, Jamie Golliver. How you doing, buddy?
I am great, Chad. How are you?
I'm great, man. The pollen's out and the eyes are red. Doesn't get
Yes.
any better this time of year.
Spring has sprung, my friends.
Yeah. So everybody, I'm almost wondering what an over under is on the bottom left of my box here on the screen of seeing the little mute button pop up here and there as I try to clear my throat, get the pollen out. Eyes are watery, but you know what? We'll fight through. So,
I was always told, Jamie, you'll outgrow these sinuses. I didn't outgrow them.
No,
they're still with me. Same as when I was 8, as I am when I'm 51.
Yeah, I think they grew inside of me. Is actually what.
Yeah. They're like, Chad. One day they said sinuses. One day you'll outgrow Chad.
And that's what it feels like. Yeah. So yeah. I'm so terrible with it too. I'm always more with sinuses and allergies. I'm more of the reactive instead of proactive. So you get watery eyes and a lecture from the wife. So it all works. It all works out well.
And you try to wear a mask and somebody thinks you're stealing the yard equipment,
That or they think you're still living in 2020.
That's right. Other, right? Yeah. That's either the neighbors are like, somebody's taking Jamie's weed eater, or, Jamie's not doing too well. So when you got the mask on. So maybe it'll be our weed eater soon. So you got to kind of balance that.
That's right. All right. So we've hit on a few things. This is episode 5, and we talked about personal stories and journeys and a little bit of home shopping, questions that were answered, things we've been through, etc. But we haven't really outlined the process, and that's what we want to do today. Is okay. So now, officially ready to buy a home. You kind of get to that point. What was it for you? I guess because you've mentioned the funny interactions with Diana, your awesome wife, about, by the way, let's go ahead and throw this out there. Diana's up for some teacher awards. Make sure you follow her on Facebook and go vote for her so she can go to Hawaii.
Thank you. Diana Golliver, favorite teacher, trying to get a cash award and a 20th anniversary trip to Hawaii. She deserves that for putting up with me for almost 20 years.
And deserves it more by not taking Jamie if she wins.
I didn't think the check is that you up for 2, Diana? I guess I need to verify that.
Hey. Yeah, for her and a best friend is what
I might have made a critical assumption there, Chad.
You're going to be at home with the geriatric Buffy, and Diana will be in at the luau.
Yeah, she'll be at the luau. We'll be here on the couch. So yeah.
All right. So if you're wanting to buy a house, it's okay to win a trip to Hawaii. It may not be the best idea to spend money on a trip to Hawaii if you're getting to that point. So you guys, you joke about, she said, hey, $40,000 for some house, manufactured home, single family home, whatever it was. Hey, we want to buy something and $40,000. And you said, whoa, let's pump the brakes here. Pump the brakes.
Rein it in.
The good thing is that it all worked out and you guys ended up buying something that was in the 130, 140 range in Athens. And now it's worth, what was it? Like
300,
upper 300, somewhere in there. Yeah. I mean, it's more than doubled in value. So terrific investment. But what was it that mentally got you from, we can't spend $40,000 to, okay, let's go spend $135,000?
Well, that's a great question. So we were at the point to where, that $40,000, maybe we don't have to pump the brakes on that, but I don't know if that's really the house we want. So we talked, and our first step was reaching out to you to see exactly what could we afford based on our income and our credit at that point in time. And we had a lot of, now what, itis, I guess. Now what? We were ready to go. We'd kind of been looking around at some houses either online or driving around different neighborhoods. Well, now what? We want to do this. What is our next step?
Right.
But before we did any of that, Chad, we wanted to make sure that we wanted to make sure that we were looking within what we were going to be approved for. We didn't want to get our hopes up for anything that we wouldn't be able to afford or that didn't work out. So that's where we turned to you and that, now what? I was like, Chad, now what? We were doing the broadcast and I'm like, hey, we can talk about a house and kind of our next steps. And actually we were on a road trip back from Nashville when we really got to seriously talking about what Diana and I, what our next steps would be. And that's when we started talking about these are the different things you have to do. So I thought, it'd be great for all of our listeners. Now what? For anybody who's in that status, laying out those steps for them.
And I think if you really asked every single person, every adult, or young person just out of college, which is an adult too, but refer to them maybe as younger adults.
Yeah, that's a real relative term there.
Yeah, it is relative. That is. There are some 40-year-olds that I don't know if they're quite adults yet. Yeah. So you talk to them. I bet if you went and polled 100 people, and let's just say age 22 to 40 or 50, whatever, and you said, "Hey, if you could buy a house today, would you want to?" Like, I have a hard time believing that more than maybe 2 would say no. And even the 2 that said no, like, I would think that there's probably some specific reason. Like, well, I'm, maybe just simply afraid of owning a home, or I'm not mentally ready for it, or my job, I travel all the time and I just want to rent because I get a housing stipend or something. And I may end up relocating again in a year or 2 years, which again, doesn't mean you shouldn't buy a home, but maybe that's their logic. And at least it's sensible and thought out, and that's their opinion, and that's okay. But I bet that if you ask pretty much anyone, you want to buy a house? They would say, yeah, I do. So I think a lot of times it is more getting people to the point of, hey, you actually might qualify and you just don't know it. But that is really the first step. Is you got to get over some fears, I guess, of being told no. That's really the hardest thing. Nobody wants to be told no. So nobody wants to be embarrassed, be told no, be told you can't, have something that maybe deep down you really do want. Your friends have houses, but then you can't get a house. Your whole family owns houses, but you can't get a house. And I think what a lot of people maybe miss on this is that the public, I guarantee you guys, you don't know if you qualify without asking me or someone like me. That's really number one. Number two, none of this is public information. Like, if you ask me if you can buy a house and I run everything and I tell you no, only you and I know that. I don't call your mom or dad. I don't call your sisters, your friends. I don't go post about it on Facebook or social media.
Yeah. No billboards.
So, yeah. So, I mean, is that a fair assessment? Like, the people maybe, like, the biggest thing is just simply fear? Because I would think everybody wants to buy a house, but a lot of times they don't ask just because maybe fear of the unknown.
I absolutely think that's what it is. Fear of the unknown is something that drives people to a lot of times not act in a variety of areas in their lives. And that's what it is, a fear of the unknown, especially for these first-time home buyers like we were, who don't know if they qualify or if they do what they qualify for. And that's where I was really thankful for you, because we were able just to lay it all out, kind of bare bones. Here's our situation. And you very honestly told us where we were and what we would be able to do. And then that led into those next steps. For us, we had been renting an apartment going on 6 years at that time, because we'd been married for close to 6 years when we started looking. And we were just tired of throwing that money away into rent every month. Why not take that money, and it's probably going to be more money than we're renting this apartment for, and apply it to something that we can own. And granted, there comes, different things in regard to owning than renting. You've got your expenses, different things you have to take care of, but there's also that pride and satisfaction with owning your own place. And we were to that point then where we were ready for that, what next step. But the fear of the unknown, I think, is really what drives people, because maybe they think their credit's not going to be good enough, or they don't quite know what to ask or even who to ask. And that's where we really want to be able to step up and help people with that, because We've been through that. And I think you absolutely hit the nail on the head with that, Chad, that fear of the unknown and just not sure what is out there and what you would be able to get.
Here's the thing, too. Literally, and don't get fooled by this. Don't get fooled by online companies. Don't get fooled by message boards or Reddit or Twitter or anything. It's literally free to find out if you qualify to buy a house. Literally, there's nothing that is owed by you. Some companies may charge a credit report fee, and honestly, you shouldn't work with them because there are plenty of companies that are not going to charge you for that. And they're just going to say, yeah, it's just kind of cost of doing business. So whenever you have the urge or the desire to find that out, you literally can ask anyone and we can run a credit report for you, and you can tell us the income and what you have for assets and literally know 10 minutes if you're going to qualify or not. It's really that fast. So think about that and let it sink in for a second. You could go from having a conversation with yourself or your spouse and saying, kind of wonder if I could buy something. You're 10 minutes away from knowing the answer. Now, there's layers to approvals, but what I tell people all the time is we're very fortunate and blessed to be busy. So I'm not going to waste my time or your time and give you false hope because we have other customers and families to serve. So if we can help you, we're going to tell you. And if we can't, we're going to give you the hard truth. But we also are going to tell you, hey, this is the path that you need to get on so that we can get you there in 2 months or 6 months or a year. I talk to people, I'm not kidding. I closed someone, this guy and his wife helped consolidate all their debt. This was about 3 weeks ago. You know how long I've been working with them? We worked together for 19 months.
Wow.
Got them closed. 19 months. And it's not that we talked to each other every day for 19 months, but it was, hey, you need to do this and you need to do this and you need to do this. And they did it. And we just had calendar set up meetings, reminders to check in. Hey, so-and-so, you good? You know, okay, this is paid. Everything's on time. Everything's good. Yep. Perfect. All right. We're still on track. So that's the whole point, is not to be so transactional where it's like, yeah, you don't qualify, better luck next time. We don't cue the Price is Right trombone if you don't qualify. Yeah, that's not the point. But yeah, buying a house so you're ready to buy what's next. I mean, pre-approval is the biggest thing. Now this episode, we're not going to go through every single step because this is more like a 10 episode series on being able to, all right, what's next? Because here are the highlights of the rest of it. There's just finding out if you're qualified. Then you've got, if you don't already have one, you got to find a real estate agent, and we know great ones. There are plenty of great ones we don't know as well, but you got to have a good agent. Then they're going to set up a search for you. You're going to go look at all those houses online, most likely, and then you're going to pick out the handful you really want to see. And as long as me and Jamie say you're good, then you're going to go with that agent and go check out some houses. You're going to negotiate back and forth. Once you find one you like, then you're going to go under contract. And I think this is a future episode also, but Jamie, were you prepared for all the money that actually comes out of pocket before closing?
I was ready ahead of closing, knowing that, but there were some steps along the way that we had to get some things in order and do a little saving and prep as we went through that, because of the multi-step process of buying a house. We really weren't surprised with anything, Chad, because you were there with us every step of the way, but you would inform us of some things. And I'm like, okay, I didn't know that. So here's what we're going to do for that step. So I think our whole process took maybe 3 or 4 months. So it wasn't instantaneous, but by no means was it, a forever type of process either. So that was important that you told us when things did come up like that, so we weren't surprised, and we would make adjustments when we needed to regarding money, not only the closing, but the money required to put down and things like that.
Well, That's the thing. So I don't want to dive too deep into this because, like I said, it's a future episode, but there are things you pay for. Earnest money, which is a deposit to the seller. You pay for the appraisal. You pay for the home inspection. Those three things you pay for. Um, and the earnest money, if the house falls through, you'll get the earnest money back. If the house falls through, depending on when the appraisal took place and what services were provided, you may or may not get that money back. Home inspection, you don't get that money back. So that's one thing people I think miss is that if you buy a house, you do a home inspection, the inspector comes back and is like, this house is a piece of crap, man. There's all kinds of stuff wrong with this. Well, you don't want to buy it then. And you're like, I'm too scared. I don't want to take on a project. I don't want to deal with all these things. I'm backing out. You still got to pay the home inspector. Like that's just $200, $300, $400, $500, depending on the size of the home. It's just gone. It just is what it is. It's a cost of trying to buy a home. So once you're under contract, though, there are those things that take place: the earnest money deposit, the home inspection, the appraisal. You get to come back to me and Jamie. We get to run you through the ringer and ask for documentation and all this good stuff. And then also in the meantime, you're setting things up: movers, utility switch, cable and internet. What are you going to do and what are you going to eat for the first 2 to 3 days in the new house because your stuff's not unpacked? You know, all those things. And then at the end of it, everything's good, great, it's wonderful. You're excited. You close on the home, you get the keys, you move in, and then you're going to get bombarded with spam mail in your mailbox that you have to ignore. You're going to have to set up your payment online for your mortgage the following month. So there's still so many things, you know, that really go into it. And we kind of talked about the adults part. The other part I love about home buying, other than the simple fact of you build wealth by doing it, is it does teach you to grow up some. Like all those things I just named, you know how much responsibility there is to manage that, especially if you were never managing it before. And you got to think, oh man, I got to set this up. I got to go switch this. I got to make this phone call. You got to do a lot of things. I'm sure you have the pleasure of remembering some of that.
Oh yes, a whole different world. You know, which people owe you favors when it's time to move?
No, the old beer and pizza.
Absolutely, guys. Don't just show up on the last day. You're going to be here the whole time to get both of those items.
Don't show up on sheets and plates day. Show up on couch and fur.
Or don't be the guy that's like, "Hey guys, am I late?" You know, right as the pizza's being handed out. We've all known people like that.
Or everybody's walking out and their back is hurting and they're holding their arms and their legs, and then you come walking out with a lamp. Like that's
yeah. and then a piece of styrofoam in the other hand. Yeah. That's always great. The thing about the earnest money, and I know we're going to dive into this deeper later in another episode, but the great thing about the earnest money, that was something we weren't fully knowledgeable about until you shared that with us, but it made sense. It's a good faith gesture. The appraisal, the home inspections, making sure neither the buyer nor the seller are going into a bad deal. So while those things we learned as we were going, it has really reinforced for us that, man, this is a thorough process that is vetted for the sake of not only the seller, but for us as well. So it was never a hiccup with those kinds of things, but just things we had never known about because we'd never bought a house before.
Yeah, that's right. Any final thoughts on this one? Because we're going to get into more of these a little deeper, kind of each section of it. But we wanted today to be, hey, all right, we're ready. So kind of where do we go from here? And I can't stress that enough. And two things here. One, if you could Men in Black yourself and erase anything you've ever been told before, like flash that little red light, and just forget anything you've been told, any just stereotypes or tribal knowledge or whatever you want to call it, that mom, dad, not that it was intentionally bad, but just, hey, maybe open the mind up a little bit to different ideas and different thoughts. Because if you go back and watch last week's episode, I go on a rant about how PMI is a good thing. And it is a good thing. It's a great thing. PMI is the best thing in the entire world.
I am a believer in PMI.
Yeah, PMI is awesome. It's freaking awesome. But I would say that just being open to new concepts and ideas. And the second thing is, especially today with the technology and everything, you're literally 10 minutes apart from knowing whether or not you qualify for a house or not. So just keep that in mind too. If you really want to know, if you really think, hey, I'm ready to at least find out, 10 minutes, you'll know. It's really
And
that easy.
again, that fear of the unknown. I had a poster in my classroom for years. The journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. Taking that first
I
step.
thought you were going Vanessa Carlton or something. But
Well, no comments, Diana. I am a Vanessa Carlton fan. She's quite the songstress. What were we talking about? Oh, yeah. So taking that first step is often the hardest part because people are just hesitant to do it. But once you take it and ready to take it, that's why we're here to help you out. Again, we've taken that journey. It wasn't necessarily 1,000 miles. They're making our way downtown. But sorry, Vanessa Carlton reference there, Chad. I couldn't let that one go.
I knew it was coming.
Yeah, you knew. But I think that's kind of important as we wrap up this episode. Just reach out to us so we can help you navigate that and talk to us. Again, we've both been through that, through multiple scenarios and situations. We know what it's like to be hesitant and nervous or apprehensive or just not know. And we want to help ease all of those things for you based on our experiences. So I think that's a good way to kind of end our episode on a note today.
Well, and the biggest thing is we don't want to let time pass us by, Vanessa.
I know.
All right. So the best way to not let time pass you by is in the comment section below or in the description of the video, calendar links. We've had those up. And we appreciate those of you who have reached out and asked some questions here and there,
Yes.
and kind of checked in and whatnot. It makes the videos worth doing, to be honest, because just enjoy helping people quite a bit. So the other thing, like, subscribe, follow, download, share, hit the bell, all those socials up there in the corner. That's where you can find the different content and hang out with us. And like I said, appreciate all of you for being a part of this. And we'll dive in again some more next week with the different, pieces and sectors and fragments of the home buying process. It's a lot of fun, not going to lie, can be stressful. But the good news is, let's end on this. You can find out if you can even take that journey with just about 10 minutes of your time. So have a great week. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll catch you next time.